Hey everybody, welcome back to Elysium. This time I wanted to go over the 5th edition Ventrue vampires that come in the basic starter pack. Now I don't have the new blood pack, so this will just be the 12. There's actually only 9. 3 of them have duplicates. So we'll go over the 9 that we've got. And as always, we're going to start with the youngest, Brock Sterling. Attilio Gambadotti, that's our artist for Brock Sterling. One thing I want to point out with these 5th edition Ventrue is that we got a new border. I don't know what's up with the hot pink. That's not a very Ventrue color in my opinion. Maybe I'm looking at like a fancy curtain, or I don't know. I don't know what that frame is supposed to be. It doesn't look very Ventrue to me. But that's what we've got. And I'll point out that the symbol for the Ventrue, in 1st edition it was just the scepter, but in later editions they added a little sword to the Ventrue symbol. A couple of interesting things about this artwork here. First of which is the fact that normally a younger vampire just has 1 or 2 ordinary abilities, disciplines, but Brock Sterling has superior fortitude, and if you ask me, my goodness, if this isn't a vampire that doesn't look like he's got superior fortitude. He looks like he's built like a brick wall. In fact, if we were to take the 1st edition Justicar, Democritus, I imagine that Democritus's body looks a lot like Brock Sterling's body. He's just built tough. That's the other interesting thing about this picture. It makes me wonder if maybe a Ventrue looked at his bodyguard or her bodyguard and said, you know what would make my bodyguard even better at his job? Maybe I should embrace him. And of course, Brock Sterling's just gonna, whatever you say, boss. So there he is. He is now a vampire. I don't know if that's really the story, but that's the feeling I get from this artwork. I love the moonlight. I love the stern face, the big solid body in the suit. He looks tough, and I would play with him. I like this picture. Don't know that I see a vampire. If I saw this picture removed from context, I probably wouldn't assume vampire on sight. But is he Ventrue? Well, like I said, he kind of looks like he's got Democritus's body, and he's wearing a nice suit. Why not? Why can't he be Ventrue? I like Brock Sterling. Next is Oshri Dahan. Oshri Dahan is by Mark Kelly, the guy who likes to use photorealistic pictures of people. What I see here is not a vampire and not a Ventrue. I see some doofus hanging out at a carnival or something. I'm not sure what Mark Kelly was going for on this one. When I think Ventrue, I do not think big, goofy smile. And if you're going to give me a smile, you've got to at least have sharp canines, not even necessarily long canines. Just make them sharp at the very least. Put some effort into convincing me that I'm looking at a vampire. I would not play with Oshri Dahan. Too goofy. Don't like it. Next, by Ginez Quiñonero, we've got Chelsea Blake. I don't really like this picture. I think it looks good, but again, when one thinks vampire, one does not think a jockey. I see a horse racer here. Now, when in our society, when we think horseback riding and the people who are so into it that they have an outfit for that activity, we generally think of people that are rather prosperous and well-to-do, people who have money and free time. So I guess if if one aspect of what makes a vampire Ventrue is riches, then I suppose Chelsea Blake here could be a vampire, but I don't really see it. I don't know why I should have to put up with a vampire that looks like this when I've got so many better options. It's the picture looks nice, but I don't want to play Seabiscuit among my Brock Sterlings. Like, I don't like it. I don't like this picture. Would not play with. Next, by Amy Wilkins, we have Naomi Stewart. This is one of the few Amy Wilkins pictures that, though I like, I would not play with, because there's nothing really here to indicate that I'm looking at a Ventrue. There's nothing here to indicate that I'm looking at a vampire. What I see is a very pretty girl. Good job, Amy Wilkins. You illustrated a gorgeous woman. I don't see vampirism. I mean, even her eyes look totally ordinary, totally human. Like most people, at least they'll give us eyes that stand out in some way. But this is, frankly, I think this might have better place in a Toreador deck. The picture's fine. I like the picture. It's very good artwork. Amy Wilkins is one of my favorites. I'll just tee you up for that now. I'm going to gush over Amy Wilkins' art later in this deck, but this one, though she is pretty and it's a good-looking piece of art, I would not play with her unless I had no other choice. She looks good. I don't see a vampire, and I don't see a Ventrue. The next one is Madison by Ken Meyer Jr. Now, this one here, right off the bat, I see a girl boss. I see a lady who's in charge. I see a lady who doesn't care whether or not she is lusciously physically attractive. She cares about getting the job done, and she knows how to get people to do their job. I definitely see a Ventrue here. And I like the little blood jewel on her choker. I like the blood lips. The green eyes, those seem to be a feature of a lot of these vampires. In fact, I think Ken Meyer Jr. has done other vampires with green eyes. But I like this one. I would play with Madison. She looks like a Ventrue. She looks very... I guess the best way to put it is she looks like a girl boss. She is the kind of woman you could see running your company competently. Next, by, again, Ginez Quiñonero, Horst von Brühl, Prince of Mannheim. This is not great. The artwork is fine. The artist did a good job doing a picture of a middle-aged guy that looks like a boss. He's dressed like a Ventrue. I like my Ventrue to have a bit of a harder expression on their face. This guy looks a bit too doughy and jolly for my liking. I like the plush curtains behind him. I like the ornate chair that he's sitting in. Basically, everything about this picture is perfect except for the vampire's face. I just don't like it. And that's not to say that you don't have to like it, but like I said, I prefer my Ventrue to look a little more serious. That's about all I've got to say about this picture. It could have been so good if they had given him a sterner expression and maybe less pudginess and maybe a little more hair. No, that's a miss for me. Your opinion may vary. Next, by Heather V. Kreiter, Sibrin van Oosten. This is the Prince of Rotterdam. This is a Ventrue. Everything about this picture says Ventrue to me. He's got the Gothic window behind him. He's got a nice fancy cup of blood, presumably. He's got the ascot nicely tucked in there, smoking a cigar. This is great. I might have gone with a different art style, but this art style is not terrible. I can tell that this is a very pale guy with some light shining on his face. I don't know what else to say. He looks like a Ventrue. This is a guy who looks like he's in charge, and he is. He's the Prince of Rotterdam. This is another guy that reminds me of LaCroix from Bloodlines, except I don't think LaCroix smokes. Frankly, it doesn't strike me as a good idea for vampires to smoke when they take aggravated damage from fire. So maybe think twice about that, Sybren Van Oosten. He looks good. I would play with him, and that would be good because we need princes. That's a good one. Not as good as Alice Chen by Amy Wilkins. I told you, when we see Amy Wilkins again, I'm going to be much happier with the artwork. This picture has such good, subtle elements. If I were to glance at it, I would just see a pretty girl. But as you stare at it, you start to notice that her eyes are a little too dark, that her fingernails are a little too long, and for some reason she's got blood trickling down her chin. That's a nice touch. That's a nice touch just to confirm the vampirism in case you weren't quite sure. Was it necessary? Maybe. I think it's a nice touch to have the blood there. But one thing I also notice about this picture, it's very subtle. There's a shadow that covers the top half of her face. So it's like we're meeting her in a darkened boardroom or something, and she's pondering something. I love this picture. This is a masterpiece. This is extremely Ventrue. This is extremely vampire. This is one that Amy Wilkins just absolutely knocks out of the park. It's hard to do better than this. Wow. Just wow. Alice Chen. She's one of the ones that we get a duplicate of, too. So you've got a good chance. She is the Prince of Nairobi, and she looks the part. Where's Nairobi? Kenya, I guess? Last of all, this is the 9th. We've got Alexa Draper by, that's quite a name, Martín de Diego Sabada. Alexa Draper. This is another one that I think is an absolute masterpiece. I don't know if we've encountered that artist up to this point, but there she is. I mean, if this is the caliber of work that we're going to see from this artist, then I really look forward to seeing more, because that is as Ventrue can possibly be. The short, sort of Soviet-style haircut, like the female cut of that business suit, the collared shirt, the necktie, the strong jawline, definitely Ventrue. I don't know if we've seen a more Ventrue picture than this, except perhaps Emerson Bridges from first edition. He looked very Ventrue. But yeah, Alexa Draper. Now, this is the kind of artwork I wish we could have had more of in first edition, because it just wow, just amazing. Now, are we looking at a vampire? Well, I think that glowing eye tells us that we are. Again, she's not the first vampire with an eye patch that we've seen. The Justicar for the Banu Hakim also had an eye patch. Alexa here is a prince of Melbourne, or Melbourne if you're Australian. Just amazing. I'm gushing over this one. This is an absolute must-have for your Ventrue deck. Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And that concludes it. Now, the next Ventrue video that I do is just going to be a few extras. It's going to be a few bonus Ventrue. And then I'm going to do my crypt of favorites, where I show you, if I were to make a Ventrue deck, which of my favorite Ventrue would I include? So stay tuned for that. And thank you all for watching.